If you are currently taking trading advice from me on WhatsApp or Telegram, you are being scammed by someone impersonating me. If I've emailed you from a Gmail address to give you trading advice, you are again being scammed by someone impersonating me. If you found your new financial advisor in the comments section of one of my videos and they are earning you huge profits trading crypto and stocks, you are being scammed. It does not seem to be possible to make these scammers go away, so I'm going to tell you what their scams look like so that you can avoid them. I'm Ben Felix, Chief Investment Officer at PWL Capital, and I'm going to tell you how to not get scammed. Online investment scams are no joke. Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre data show that $310 million were reported lost to investment fraud in 2024. But they also estimate that 90 to 95% of fraud goes unreported. So the real numbers are likely much larger. As the Canadian Securities Administrators suggest, successful disruption of fraud requires intelligence that sheds light on the means and methods employed by criminals, which is exactly what I'm going to do in this video. I think this is important because education about the specifics of how scams work reduces their effectiveness. In a 2014 study, consumers at a high risk of being scammed were educated about one of two different scams. The consumer later received a staged scam phone call. Those who had been warned about the specific scam that was later pitched to them were much less likely to respond to the scam than consumers who were forewarned about a different scam, though education about either scam did have a positive impact. Scammers are not very nice, but they're also not idiots. They use techniques that leverage human emotions to build trust, and they exploit points of weakness in their victims. I suspect that one of the reasons scammers are impersonating me is a technique called source credibility, where scammers take advantage of the fact that people are more likely to believe others in positions of authority and to trust organizations that they perceive as legitimate. By posing as me, the scammers are able to leverage my asynchronous relationship with my audience to build trust, making it easier for them to perpetrate their scam. They also use social proof. We see this in the YouTube comments example that I'll describe later. They create the perception that lots of people have had a great experience with a fake financial advisor. Scammers also play on common behavioral biases like optimism bias, where people overestimate the probability of good outcomes and underestimate bad ones, the halo effect, where people quickly trust someone based on a positive first impression, present bias, where people tend to maximize short-term pleasure, like the potential for a big investment gain, without fully considering the potential consequences, regret aversion, where people worry about missing out on something like a big investment opportunity, and representativeness, where people extrapolate general conclusions from specific data points, like the recent returns of an individual stock. Let me just say that I like you guys. I appreciate you watching my videos, but it is extremely unlikely that I will contact you unless you're a client of PWL Capital, and even then, it would be rare. PWL has teams of financial planners and portfolio managers that deal directly with clients, but I am not one of them. I'm the CIO. If I do reach out to you, it will be from my PWL email address, and it will not be to give you trading advice or to tell you to sign up for a shady investment platform. Okay, there are three main scams that I've come across related to my YouTube content: investment group scams, email impersonation scams, and fake financial advisor pig butchering scams. Investment group scams are typically conducted on encrypted chat platforms like Telegram and WhatsApp. I am not on Telegram. If you are in a Telegram group or otherwise communicating with me on Telegram, you are talking to a scammer. These groups are posted online and often run by accounts using the name and profile picture of someone credible. They promise to include you in a community focused on trading stocks or crypto based on rigorous research, and that you will earn high returns by following the advice. I was sent a link to one of these WhatsApp groups, which I joined, and I was contacted by one of the admins. They were using my name and my picture to communicate with other people. The group had 90 people in it when I joined. It is wild stuff. I chatted with the scammer for a bit while they were impersonating me, and they didn't know I was me, and eventually I was picked on buying a specific stock. The scam here seems to be to encourage people to buy small illiquid stocks to pump up their price so that the scammers can sell their holdings of the same stock at an inflated value, causing the price to then decline. The scammer makes a profit at the expense of the person taking their trading advice. It's a classic pump and dump with a modern group chat twist. The person I chatted with was very smooth. They had a Toronto phone number, used my name and picture, they wrote articulately, and if I did not know any better, they might have seemed credible. They even offered up the PWL Capital website when asked where they work. I would hope that this goes without saying, but it clearly needs to be said. Nobody has the ability to consistently identify stocks that will have high returns in the future. Trading individual stocks is extremely risky, and anyone confident in their ability to generate high returns from stock trading should be a big red flag, especially if they want to share those high returns with you. The rare talent that is able to profit consistently in financial markets is not on WhatsApp or Telegram sending their trading strategies to internet strangers. Email impersonation scams involve sending emails to people while posing as someone else. In my example, someone posing as me was reaching out to people who had commented on my YouTube videos. The scammer said they were emailing to thank the viewer for their engagement on my YouTube channel and inviting them to chat. Listen, again, I do appreciate all of you, but I will probably never send you an email. And again, if I do, it will not be from a Gmail address. Someone did reply to the scammer and they sent me the follow-up from the scammer. They had offered to share a comprehensive walkthrough including actionable steps, key insights from the latest research, and some of the most promising investment opportunities with strong potential for returns. This has all the hallmarks of a scam. It seems likely that it's another pump and dump, but I never followed up on this one because the email address being used was reported to Google and shut down. These scams are all bad, but the one that drives me crazy is the YouTube comment section fake financial advisor pig butchering scam. This thing is the bane of my existence because they will not go away no matter how many times I report and ban the accounts posting these comments on my channel. They've also gotten better with AI, as the comments are starting to be tailored to the content of the video, so they're harder to detect as scams, but they do generally still follow a predictable format. Most commonly, it starts with a generic comment, often with someone referencing their own success in achieving a specific dollar amount with their investments. I'm guessing there's some psychology behind that since they all seem to do it. For example, this video really hit home for me. Retirement has been such a rewarding chapter of my life. My wife and I worked hard to get here, and we're incredibly thankful for where we are today. Now we're debt-free with a net worth over $3 million, and that investment income supports us every week. This comment is on my video about the historical comparison of renting versus owning in Canada, so it's not really relevant at all to the content in this case, but it might make you wonder how this person was so financially successful. This is where their financial advisor comes in. It's always a very specific full name. Links are typically caught in YouTube comment spam filters, so the scammers won't post links. Instead, they post the first, middle, and last name of their supposed advisor. Searching that full name online brings you to a somewhat professional-looking website listing things like credentials, testimonials, awards, and licenses. Most of this information is, of course, fake, but similar to the other two scams, they will often use the name of an actual registered investment professional so that the name shows up in a registration search through securities regulator websites. They will even often link out to these legitimate websites to make themselves look more credible. It's very sneaky. This is problematic because one of the best things that you can do to verify whether someone offering you investment advice is legitimate is look them up on a regulatory website. In Canada, we have arethéyregistered.ca, where you can search for the registration of anyone registered with securities regulators in Canada. In the case of this fraudulent advisor and my WhatsApp impersonator, this step may not help. What I would say, though, is that a professional financial advisor will probably not communicate with you through WhatsApp, Telegram, or an email address that is not associated with their registered firm. If in doubt, call the firm that they are registered with at the number listed on their registration record to verify any suspicious communications. Out of curiosity, I did contact one of these fake financial advisors through the email address provided on their fraudulent website. Don't worry, I used a throwaway email address from a privacy-focused email provider. They asked me if I've ever worked with a financial advisor before, what active trading accounts I have, my annual income, whether I'm an aggressive or reserved investor, the purpose of investment, and my investment budget. Once I replied with that information, they told me that they're taking on their next batch of clients in Q2 2025, and that I could join that batch to begin investing and earning. The pitch is that they are a multi-market broker that trades across 3 different markets while majoring in digital currencies. When I said I was interested, they sent me a PDF detailing their offering. Again, don't worry, I did not download the PDF. PDFs can contain malicious code, so caution is warranted here. The PDF I received is incredible. It's like a masterclass in what to look out for in an investment scam. It contains huge amounts of financial bullshit. That is an academic term defined in the 2022 paper Individual Differences in Susceptibility to Financial Bullshit. It is defined as seemingly impressive verbal financial assertions that are presented as true and meaningful, but are actually meaningless. For example, from the PDF, the quid pro quo strategy functions through a simple economic law of substitute goods, where if goods A and goods B are substitutes, a decrease in demand of goods A will result to an increase in demand for goods B. Similarly, taking into consideration the stock market and digital currency market are both substitutes, as they offer similar services in the financial market, the economic law of substitutes will equally apply. Those words mean absolutely nothing, but they could sound smart, and they're accompanied by pictures of stocks going up. It seems ridiculous, but I think this type of text does act as a filter where people without the financial knowledge to realize that it's bullshit are prime candidates for being scammed. This document also includes another classic scam attribute, the promise of guaranteed profit with no risk. Most investors want to earn high returns and are concerned about losing money. The reality in financial markets is that if you want the expectation of earning higher returns, you need to be willing to take more risk. Diversification can mitigate the risk of total loss, but even a broadly diversified equity index fund can go through double-digit percentage point drops from time to time, and it may take years to recover. That is the reality of investing in risky assets, but humans find losses painful. Lots of overpriced and otherwise suboptimal financial products prey on this concern by promising investors downside protection. In this case, the scam advisor is offering a guaranteed monthly profit of between 5 and 10% depending on the amount of investment capital and whether you choose a passive or aggressive investment approach. Let's take a moment with that information. If we take the lower end, 5% per month, that is an annual return of 80%. For context, the most successful hedge fund in history, the Renaissance Technologies Medallion Fund, which has been closed to outside investors since 1993, has an annualized historical return of around 66% before fees and 40% after fees. It is, of course, implausible that Daisy on YouTube just happens to have found something better and is willing to tell you about it. Actual guaranteed returns available through guaranteed investment certificates in Canada or certificates of deposit in the US are much lower. Canadian banks are currently offering guaranteed rates in the 3 to 4% range, depending on how long you lock your money up. Other than the guaranteed 80% returns, the other big red flag here is the claim that there is no downside risk. The PDF says that the broker has an alternative insurance that covers for any losses incurred while trading for a client should the profit realized in a month fall below the agreed percentage. This insurance will also make up the deficit. That is not a real thing. There's nobody taking the other side of that trade. The PDF finishes with a list of benefits that reminds me of that scene from Step Brothers where they pitch prestige worldwide. Retirement, mortgages, crowdfunding, investment advising, tax avoidance, college funds. For the record, tax avoidance is not something a credible financial advisor will offer. Tax minimization stems from good tax and financial planning, but tax avoidance is inconsistent with the overall spirit of the law. Anyway, I was of course interested in signing up for these 80% returns, so I asked for the next step. I was sent another PDF requesting a ton of personal information and was told to sign up for 3 trading platforms. 2 of them were legitimate. One of them was clearly, to my eyes at least, fraudulent. It was explained to me that the advisor would be copy trading in my accounts. I stopped here because I did not actually want to get scammed, but the next step would have been for me to add funds to the trading accounts, allow my new financial advisor to trade in them, accrue the appearance of large profits in the fraudulent account, and then be told to add more funds, likely with a promise that doing so would increase my returns. This would continue until I decided to withdraw my funds, at which point I would realize that I had been scammed. At that point, it would be too late. This is called a pig butchering scam. They build trust, convince you that you're earning large profits, get you to add more funds, and then finally take you to slaughter. Scams are, unfortunately, part of life. They have been around forever, and they're not going anywhere. One of the best defenses against scams is knowledge of scams. If you know what scammers are trying to do, you will be able to avoid getting sucked into their traps. Unfortunately, the people who most need to hear this information will probably never watch this video. To address this, one of the relatively recent regulatory innovations in Canada, designed to help stop scams, is the Trusted Contact Person, or TCP. Licensed portfolio managers and investment advisors in Canada are required to ask their clients to name a trusted contact person. That is a person that the client authorizes to be contacted if the advisor is concerned that the client is being financially exploited, among a few other reasons. If you or a close family member have a financial advisor and have not named a trusted contact person, I definitely think it's worth doing. Thanks for watching. I'm the real Ben Felix, Chief Investment Officer at PWL Capital. If you found this information useful, please share it with someone who may be at risk of being scammed.